Walking with Jesus Christ in the wilderness. If you have the time, or perhaps are able to make the time, to read through the 4 readings, because there is an internal choice of Old Testament lesson, the 4 readings from the Bible offered for Ash Wednesday, you will find what I would suggest is positivity with warning rather than negativity with destruction. We are encouraged to keep positive rather than to throw in the towel at the beginning of a new season of religious life. Of course, the most beautiful expression of this relates to almsgiving, fasting and prayer in St. Matthew chapter 6. Individual worthiness is not to be flaunted or vaunted. Corporate belonging with others is the order of the day, and worthiness, mercifully, is seen by God alone. Its fruits are to be readily available to everybody. The public benefit of this is in no way lessened by the personal reticence. There really is no need for everyone to get caught in the barbed wire of virtue signalling for Lent. After all, many of us simply do not keep up what we were to giving up. Realism is a refreshing perspective and prospect, and it's always helpful. Now, that rather staccato and direct Gospel of St. Mark is neither sentimental nor maudlin about the 40 days in the wilderness. Take, for example, St. Mark chapter 1, verse 12. At once the Spirit drove him, that is Jesus, out into the wilderness, and there he remained for 40 days, tempted by Satan. The expectation, I think, is that you need to read the rest of the Gospel to find out what effect any of this had on Jesus Christ, the Son of God. But the other expectation is that the baptism in the Spirit equips Jesus not only to survive, but to flourish in the wilderness. And I want to suggest to you that our baptism does the same for us. Now, last year, 2020, we may have been caught unawares by the fact that the season of Lent and the coronavirus overlapped in time. But there's no reason for this to be the case in 2021. With the prospect of continuing and comprehensive lockdown, this year we need to make something active of Lent itself. An Irish Times article in mid-January, which many of you may have seen, spoke of the coronavirus and the ways in which, as a country, we have been trying to juggle societal lockdown for health reasons and economic lift-off for commercial reasons in the following terms, and I found them quite interesting. Rather than weighing two things up and trying to strike a balance, a better analogy is this: driving in dangerous conditions while running late. There is a known cost to lateness, but if you drive too fast and lose control, the consequences are lethal. Similarly, the COVID-19 trade-off is not a balance between economic and health outcomes, but a trade-off between economic costs and risking losing control of the disease. The decisions involved are harder and more complex. Now, I do not really want to enter into a field where I have no expertise. That is that of public health. But we have all developed a concern for public health and its issues. I want to take simply one thought from this quotation. The decisions involved are harder and more complex. And I want just to apply it to the place and the journey of Lent. The desert in lockdown seems to me to be a place of freedom with danger. There is an openness, but there is also an exposure. There is the constant presence of God, but we need to learn to be able to open and to sustain a conversation with God. There is indeed, as we stand on Ash Wednesday, a long way to go. And there are constant signs and pointers, consisting in different types of life from those to which we are accustomed, with different methods of survival in this particular and new wasteland. One question, it seems to me, is this: is a wasteland necessarily a lost land? It's in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And our prayer for today is this: let us pray for the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the nose to smell the treasure in the wilderness.